The world is full of strange unknowns. Oddities abound. Secrets and cover-ups are everywhere. Ghosts, spirits, cryptids, and all creatures of the night are waiting to give you a fright. Fear not. Through light and fire we will expose them to the light. Welcome to the Dragon's Nest. Here is your host, Will Lindsay.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dragon's Nest. I'm your host, Will Lindsay, and as always, I'm sitting with the beautiful, wonderful Miss Karen. How are you today, Karen?
I'm doing great. How's everybody out there?
So we have a special edition of the Dragon's Nest. We took a trip to West Virginia.
Great trip. Beautiful, beautiful land.
Specifically, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is the home of the Mothman.
Which, surprisingly, not a lot of people know about the Mothman or the Mothman prophecies.
So they have a nice, beautiful little festival in the town of Point Pleasant. We pretty much took about a 2.5 hour, it was about a 2.5 hour drive from where we live. And it was a nice drive. Beautiful, straightforward, and you cross over the bridge into Point Pleasant, and there was a lot of people. I was really surprised.
A ton of people. In this tiny little town that they probably usually only have like maybe 5,000 people in the whole town, and this place was just packed.
There was so many things going on. I was really surprised at how this town is capitalized on this cryptid.
Yes, it's great. I mean, it's great to see so many people coming together for something that's actually a huge tragedy.
It was very, very, very much a tragedy. Why don't you go ahead and give us the history, and
Sure.
we'll go from there.
So, for those of you that know about the Mothman and the prophecies, this is going to be a catch-up for you, but I was questioned a lot after my trip on what the Mothman was, so I thought we better start out with some history on exactly how this all got started. So, November 12th of 1966, there were 5 men who were digging a grave at a cemetery near Clendenin, West Virginia. They claimed to see a man-like figure fly low from the trees over their head. This is often identified as the first known sighting of what became known as the Mothman. Shortly thereafter, on November 15th in 1966, 2 young couples from Point Pleasant, Roger and Linda Scarsberry, and Steve and Mary Millette, I'm probably saying that wrong, sorry guys, but told police they saw a large black creature that had eyes that glowed red when the car lights picked it up. They described it as a large flying man with 10-foot wings. Following their car while they were driving in an area outside of the town known as the TNT area, the site of the former World War II munitions plant.
Munitions.
Munitions.
Not mutations, it's not the X-Men thing. It's not the X-Men.
And ABCs.
And Wolverine came out, and
you're going to cut this part out, right?
No, this is staying in. Yeah. You can't cut out quality like this. This has to be part of it.
Munitions plants. Oh my god.
Along came Cyclops.
Oh, Jesus.
Out of the mutation plant.
And you don't understand, guys. This will go on for weeks. You don't understand. My little mistake right here, it's going to go on for weeks. This is kind of abuse I have to tolerate.
Abuse.
So anyway, during the next few days, other people reported similar sightings.
In the mutation plant?
Yes, in the mutation plant. 2 volunteer firemen who sighted it said it was a large bird with red eyes. Mason County Sheriff George Johnson commented that he believed...
It was Cyclops from the mutation plant.
Stop it! Mason County Sheriff George Johnson commented that he believed the sightings were due to an unusually large heron he termed as shitepoke.
Shitpoke.
The contractor Newell Patridge told Johnson that when he aimed a flashlight at the creature in the nearby field, its eyes glowed like bicycle reflectors. And blamed buzzing noises from the television set and the disappearance of his German Shepherd dog on the creature. Wildlife biologist Dr.
Mothman gets hungry. I mean, German Shepherds, big dogs.
I was going to say, that's a lot of meat right there. Wildlife biologist Dr. Robert Smith of West Virginia University told reporters that descriptions and sightings all fit the sandhill crane, a large American crane almost as high as a man and 7-foot wingspan, featuring circles of reddish coloring around the eyes, and that the bird may have wandered out of the migration route. This particular crane
took a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
Exactly. This particular crane was unrecognized at first because it was not native to the region. After December 15th, 1967, collapse of the Silver Bridge and the death of 46 people, the incident gave rise to the legend and connected the Mothman sightings to the bridge collapse.
So the Silver Bridge collapse, I mean, Silver Bridge itself was constructed in 1928, and it connected Point Pleasant and Canaga, Ohio. The name was accredited to the aluminum color paint used. There's a sign that we have online that you can look at. It's at our Twitter page and our Facebook page, and also on our website, dragonsnestpc.com. That you can see. We took some pictures all over Point Pleasant, including of the information about the signs and where the bridge fell. But yeah, go ahead, Karen. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. The next part talks about the festivals and the statue that everyone...
Well, then before we get there, let's just talk a little more about that bridge, because apparently the bridge was the first I-bar suspension bridge of its type in the U.S., and it collapsed during rush hour on December 15th, 1967, which resulted in 31 vehicles falling into the river. Talk about awful. Killing 46 and injuring 9. But apparently it was due to a failed I-bar joint, and the weld was identified as the cause. And of course, this resulted in congressional passage of a national bridge inspection standards in 1968 to make all bridges across the country more safe.
So, I mean, a lot of good came out of the Silver Bridge collapse. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible tragedy, of course, but I mean, this has brought so many people together every single year, which is, you know, a good segue into why, you know, this is why they do the festivals, and the statue that stands there is a statue of what they perceive the Mothman to be like. Point Pleasant held its first annual Mothman Festival in 2002, and the 12-foot metallic statue of the creature was created by artist and sculptor Bob Roach.
Which you can see, we got pictures of it on all our media sites, Twitter, Facebook, and our Dragon's Nest PC. It is actually a pretty impressive piece of metal sculpture.
Oh, most definitely. It was unveiled in 2003. The Mothman Museum and Research Center opened in 2005.
Which is right next door to the sculpture.
Right, and that's ran by Jeff Wamsley. The festival is a weekend-long event held on the third weekend of every September. There's a variety of events that go on during the festival, such as guest speakers, vendor exhibits, a Mothman pancake eating contest, and hayride tours focusing on the notable areas in Point Pleasant.
And of course, we only went on a Saturday. We didn't spend the whole weekend there, so we didn't get to do some of the things. Hopefully, we're going to try to go back this coming year in 2018 and maybe experience some of the some of the things that we didn't get to experience when we were there. We didn't get to do the ride up to the mutation factory. Munitions factory. We didn't.
Stop it! Oh my gosh!
They do like a hayride and a bus tour, and they take you to where some of the most famous sightings were, and they have, you know, it's kind of an interactive trip. And of course, we didn't even get to make it into the museum because there were so many people trying to get into the museum.
It was just packed. Absolutely everything was packed. So once you go, plan on spending the day. And
yeah, it definitely is a day. One of my only complaints, really, I think, was that they had all the speakers located in the old theater building, but the theater building was kind of ran down a little bit.
Right.
They didn't have air conditioning, which was a cooler day, but It was very hard to hear. It wasn't
Yeah.
mic'd very well. So, there was a lot of people in there. And even if you were in the back because you couldn't get to the front, it was just very, 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 very hard to hear what was being said. So hopefully, if anyone is listening who makes this festival, you can make it better for people like me and Karen who love to do our podcast on your on the paranormal and learn all we can about the paranormal by making it more conducive to hearing. Amp that theater up a little better for us.
Definitely. And
We'll deal with the hot, but we need to hear.
Right. So to those of you that are interested in going this coming year in 2018, the 18th Mothman Festival will be September 15th and 16th in 2018. And for more information on the festival, you can go to mothmanfestival.com and get more information on all of that.
That's mothmanfestival.com, and you can find out a lot more information. And also, like I said before, look at our Facebook page, look at our Twitter page, or go to our dragonsnestpc.com page and check out the pictures we took of the Mothman. There is one fabulous picture of his rear end.
Yes.
Who knew he had such a tight bum?
I had to get that picture. Just having that life-size bum in front of me, I had to get a picture of.
And it's not often you see a cryptid's bum,
That's true.
Or maybe you see it more often because they're kind of running away. I know with the Mothman, he's usually facing you with his red eyes. Well, there was a nice little coffee shop there, too, that I got to experience. Me, I love my coffee. I'm sitting here drinking a cup right now. Coffee and bourbon. Love both of those things. But there was a place called the Coffee Grinder in Point Pleasant where you can actually see the Mothman was having a cup of joe.
Yes. And Will got to be Mothman for just a few seconds and got a picture of that.
I think it's one of the most... we'll get back to the Mothman himself, but just talking about the festival, the artwork at the festival was pretty amazing. And it was all Mothman-based artwork, but the artists were just phenomenal artists.
Absolutely. And we actually have a picture up on our site right now of one of the gentlemen that was painting for us live, just painting it right there in front of us. On
a canvas that's probably I don't know, a meter by 2 meters. It's a big...
it's about as big as he is. And he's just painting it right there in front of us. After he's done, it goes up for sale.
They had a $300 price tag on it, and it was sold shortly after he finished it. The paint was still wet, and he had sold it.
Right.
And it was worth $300. It's huge. It would fill up your entire wall.
And it's absolutely gorgeous. I know a lot of people probably would not want that hanging in their living room, but some people do. And a lot of people like to collect items from the Mothman Festival to kind of give your home that creepy vibe. Now, of course, we have to put props out to Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man from the Ghostbusters made an appearance there.
It was kind of scary. I thought I was going to get, I thought Ray did it again.
Yeah.
He was asked if they were gods. And what are you supposed to do if someone asks you if you're a god?
You say yes.
Exactly. But no, the Stay Puft Marshmallow was there. Stay Puft Marshmallow? The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was there. He was there, Karen. But also there was a group of, I forget who they were. The Mountain Men.
Right.
Paranormal people. They have a show on the Learning Channel, I think. But either way, they were very popular. They had a line wrapped around the building for people to get their autographs and talk to them. It was very full.
I was going to say, and it wasn't only them. There was a lot of different people.
Woodworkers and painters and sculptors and...
But everyone's so friendly and willing to sit and talk to you about it and the sightings that people have had in the area. Just everyone was so forthcoming and willing to talk about their experiences that lived there. And it's just a great, great time.
So, these people believed that the Mothman was an omen to that bridge collapse. His sightings were basically trying, according to lore and what people believe about the origins of Mothman, that he was trying to let them know that something bad was going to happen in that town.
Right.
So, is that really what took place? And then other people think that maybe Mothman is some sort of interdimensional creature that comes into our dimension per curiously for various different reasons. Accordingly to that, he is also being seen now in Chicago, which is kind of strange, but there's all these new recent Mothman sightings in Chicago. You want to kind of read a little bit about one of the sightings?
Definitely. So this next article was called Winged Humanoid Confronts Shock Chicago Witnesses from phantomsandmonsters.com. It starts out saying, I received a brief email today from a witness in Chicago. I was asked to call them for further information, so I responded with a telephone call at 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time. The witness, AG, and her husband, who live in Washington, D.C. suburbs, are in Chicago visiting her parents, who live at 1400 Lakeshore Drive. She was born and raised abroad, but her parents are now living in Chicago. Last night, which was Wednesday, 8/9/2017, at approximately 9:20 p.m. Central Time, the witness and her husband were returning to her parents' residence after taking a brief walk along North Lakeshore Drive, walking south. As they approached East Schiller Street, they noticed something large and dark flying towards them from their left, from the direction of Lake Michigan. Both witnesses were startled as the flying anomaly. Thank you. That I read right. I just couldn't say. So, across ahead of them at an altitude of 20 or so feet. They watched the anomaly.
Phenomenon. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
You should read this because it's got the word a lot of times. Sweep upwards over the trees in front of 1400 North Lakeshore Drive, then stop mid-air after it reached a height just a few stories from the top of the building. It hovered with a large pair of wings for approximately 5 seconds, as it seemed to focus on the windows in front of it. It then bent backwards and fell into a dive down towards the trees. The witnesses hurriedly walked in the direction of the intersection and then turned right onto East Schiller Street, quickly walking towards the entrance to the condominium building. Then suddenly, the large winged being slowly descended in front of them, no more than 25 feet away. It hovered about 5 feet above the sidewalk with a wing spread open as it peered at the couple with bright, large red eyes, then slowly altered back and forth in an intensity. Several people on the other side of the street, including the delivery van driver, reacted with screams and frightened yelps. The winged being hovered for 10 seconds, then quickly pulled the wings into its body and shot up quickly into the night sky. There was no sound other than the rush of air as the being flew upwards. The witness AG described the winged being as human-like with a small head and narrowed at the top. It had legs like a human with long feet that were tapered. Neither witness noticed any arms. The body was 5 to 6 feet in height, and it had very wide wings that resembled the top wings of a butterfly attached along the body. The illumination from the building entrance could be seen through the wings, so it looked as if it was made of skin or some kind of membrane. The wingspan was easily 10 feet. The legs pulsated as it hovered in the air. The overall color was very dark, like a deep bluish green. The skin on the body may have been moist since it was shiny.
That's every woman's favorite word.
The eyes were large compared to the head size, slightly slanted, and alternated back and forth into brightness. It made no noise other than the slight humming from the pulsating legs. Both witnesses stated that they felt vibration that emanated from the being. The witness did not see at least one camera flash come from across the street. Did see one camera flash from across the street. Neither witness was available to retrieve their phones. The fear and shock was too profound during the encounter. AG stated that she literally fell to her knees after the incident and that her husband had to assist her the rest of the way. Neither witness had slept more than an hour or two since their encounter 18 hours previous. Note, the witness's statement by telephone was quite dramatic and detailed. I'll admit, she freaked me out a bit. This encounter/sighting to date offers the best description of the flying humanoid. The witness's husband talked briefly, but he acted like he'd rather not say too much. The witnesses were supposed to fly home today, but they have delayed their departure for a few days. AG told me, I'm just not ready to get on an airplane right now.
That's kind of creepy.
Very creepy. And very detailed.
I'd just like to know why his legs were pulsating.
I think that, if we're dealing with something like an insect, a giant insect, I mean, a lot of insects do a pulsating type thing with their legs or with their wings or something to kind of either deter enemies or to actually try to find a mate of some sort, such as like crickets will rub their legs together. This might be a way, if this is true, that the Mothman may be trying to communicate, or maybe he felt threatened and that was a way of deterring them.
Possibly. Or, is he really trying to be some sort of beacon of not fear, but, something to tell them not to do something? Because if what people believe from Point Pleasant is true, then he was trying to warn people of something emanating, something coming that they should be aware of. So was he trying to tell that couple not to fly? Or maybe, I don't know. What kind of information was he trying to pass on there? It's kind of interesting.
It's very interesting.
Or maybe he has nothing to do. Maybe that's all a coincidence and it's just some sort of cryptid that's around the country.
I mean, it is interesting. If this is a creature that is supposed to be feared, you would think that he would have hurt someone by now. And no one ever talks about him hurting anyone. Dogs that went missing, stuff like that, but it's never something where he himself hurt someone. It's usually just a warning of if he shows up, something bad's about to happen and you should be ready for it.
Well, MUFON.com, which is MUFON is a large proponent of UFO information and witnesses. People report a lot of sightings to them. So they have also taken some Mothman sightings over Chicago and put it into their database, which if you want to go to MUFON.com, that's MUFON.com. It stands for the Mutual UFO Network. They have a lot of information about UFOs and sightings across the country and the world. It's a major network of people, but they reported that this case took place between 10 p.m. on April 15th, 2017 and 2 a.m. on April 16th, 2017. Please be aware that all the case's details until an investigation is completed. At this point in the investigation, a hoax cannot be ruled out. In case 83325, the witness was out on Lake Michigan with her husband and two other couples celebrating a friend's birthday. We were about 2 miles out on the lake, just off of Montrose, at about 10 p.m., the witness stated. We were enjoying ourselves when I happened to look upon and saw what looked like a giant bat, and not like a fox bat, which I looked up and saw was the biggest bat. This bat was as tall as my husband, who is 6 foot 4 inches, or even bigger. The witness described the creature. It was solid black with eyes that seemed to reflect the moonlight. This bat was blacker than the surrounding night sky and was perfectly silhouetted against the moonlight sky. This bat circled the boat 3 times in complete silence before heading off towards Montrose. It quickly blended into the night sky and was gone in seconds. About 5 minutes after seeing the creature, the same witness saw a bright green object traveling north to south at the horizon. It was not a plane, as it was brilliant green, and it was moving slowly across the horizon. If I had to estimate, it was about 2 miles from our position. After the object was out of sight, we sat there looking around in stunned silence. I began feeling this overwhelming sensation of dread and told my husband that I felt that it was prudent that we get off the water as quickly as possible. I tried to get a picture of the thing as it circled our boat, but all I got was black. 30 minutes later, in case 83243, the witness was hanging out with my boys and new friends. The witness said, hanging out with my boys and new friends in Chicago at 10:30 p.m. As we talked about work and our families, we heard what sounded like a bird flapping its wings, the witness stated. One of my homies yelled out that he saw...
It's just great hearing you say homies.
That he saw a huge lechuza over by the road. Not sure what a lechuza is.
I'll have to look that one up.
We are going to have to look that one up. The lechuza... Oh, well, they're going to give us that information. All right, so I should have just read on. The lechuza is a Mexican urban legend or myth about an old woman who can turn into a giant blackbird. Oh,
there we go.
Shapeshifters.
Yes.
I've been wanting to do a show on shapeshifters. It's interesting. We walked over there and saw what looked like a big owl. As we walked upon it, the owl stood up and on 2 feet and looked right at us. We saw what looked like a huge lechuza, except it was about 6 feet tall and really big. It had large glowing red eyes that were completely freaking everybody out. We all yelled at the thing and took off into the air and took off toward North Avenue. This thing freaked us all out and scared all of our kids. The third report came in, case number 83206, occurred at 2 a.m. on April 16, 2017. The witness said, I arrived for work at 2 a.m. at the Chicago International Produce Market just off Damon, and as I walked across the parking lot, a bunch of guys, 4 to 5 guys, were staring up at the sky. I looked up and saw the biggest freaking owl I ever have seen. I'm 6 feet 2 inches, and I'm guessing this thing was at least a foot taller than me. It was completely black, except for it having bright yellowish-reddish eyes like a cat. The witness further described the creature. It stood there for a minute or two, staring at everyone, before shooting up in the sky and disappearing. It made everyone feel very uneasy, and only took off after some other guys started throwing rocks at it. It had wings on it like an owl, only bigger, and you could hear it flap those wings when it took off. It made the sound as it took off and flew away that sounded like a truck's brakes when they are burned out. It flew up and then flew wide in a circle, making that sound once more, and then flew off in the direction of Stevenson Expressway. We stood around and looked for it for a few minutes, but it never came back. I'm reporting this because there is no way this was an owl. It stood upright like a man, just really, really tall. I don't want to discuss this with anyone, and I would prefer to remain anonymous. I don't imagine anyone would believe me anyways. One of the guys I work with who saw this thing, said that it made him feel very uneasy, like a scared kid, and he was glad someone threw a rock and made it fly away. Well, or it could have attacked. I don't know.
I'm not sure I would have thrown a rock at it.
I think I would have just maybe backed up slowly, not to, scare the creature, just in fear that it might do something. I mean, if owls are predatory animals, after all, if you think it's an owl, they do hunt.
But when you're scared of something, throwing rocks at it, I mean...
Get on out here now, you lechuza! Or maybe it's lechuza. I don't know, I'm going to have to ask somebody. I've never heard of that before. We really got to look that up. So, and again, these 3 witnesses happened over maybe a little less than a 48-hour period in 2017.
Right.
In 3 different areas. Now, 2 of them kind of gave similar descriptions. The one, because they said the wings were like an owl's wings, whereas your description from your witnesses that you read about were more butterfly-like wings. And
I'm wondering if there is a Mothman, who's to say that there's only one? Who's to say there's only one type? Just because you've seen a deer doesn't mean you've seen every type of deer. Just because you've seen a bird, you haven't seen every type of bird. And, it's very interesting that there have been so many eyewitness, type things. And this isn't talking about like you're out in the backwoods of southern Kentucky or, something like that where everyone's seeing Bigfoot. And again, I'm not saying that there's not something such as Bigfoot. I'm just saying that this is a situation where you've got multiple sightings in a very, high traffic type area.
In Chicago. I mean, it's the third largest city in the United States, behind New York and LA.
This isn't something that, only one or two people saw, and they were the only two people in the vicinity. We're talking about, we've got people that were out on the lake, saw something. People, these guys are throwing rocks at it, trying to make it go away.
Well, interestingly enough, the one on the lake actually further may have seen a UFO afterwards.
It's very weird.
Completely unrelated to the Mothman, or maybe related to the Mothman. Again, is it a harbinger of something? She did say she had a feeling of dread. Or is it ingrained in us that creature known as the Mothman, maybe she had heard about it or knows the story. I mean, they have done movies. You watched the movie with Richard Gere about the Mothman in Point Pleasant. Right. But, maybe in the back of her head when she saw that could have brought the dread up.
Which, again,
of course, guys, I might have a feeling of dread if I'm just out on a boat in the middle of a lake.
And then suddenly this huge winged creature
let's face it,
comes
Lake Michigan
through.
Is the size of an ocean.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Absolutely humongous. But I don't know, maybe the Mothman itself just kind of gives you that feeling of dread to try to warn you
possibly
of things. So
you have another article from the Chicago Tribune, I think.
Right. This one's called Chicago's Mothman Stories Are Good Paranormal Entertainment. And this one is by Ted Slowick of the Chicago Tribune. It says, I love a good story about the paranormal. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery in Bremen Township is famous for ghost stories. The 2004 reports of the three red lights hovering in the sky over Tinley Park excited UFO enthusiasts. Stories of extraterrestrials, Bigfoots, poltergeists, and other phenomena made No, that's phenomena.
Oh, God, I always get that wrong.
Make for entertaining yarns that stretch the boundaries of the imagination. When I heard
your imagination.
When I heard about recent...
Shout out to Willy Wonka.
Ugh. Why?
I love Gene Wilder.
My heart. Ugh. Anyway, when I heard about recent alleged sightings of Mothman in Chicago, I reacted with a healthy dose of skepticism. For some willing to suspect disbelief, the sightings portend? It says portend.
Yeah, that's right.
An ominous tale of foreboding. Others may pass them off as pure fiction. Some say it looks like a large bat or owl. Others say it resembles a man in a winged suit. Some say it's silent, but others describe a sound like brakes screeching. Some people who claim to have seen the creature in Chicago recently reported it had glowing red eyes, and they felt a sense of dread when they saw it. He says, I believe the witnesses are seeing something. Paranormal researcher Lon Strickler of Pennsylvania told me by phone on Friday.
I think Lon Strickler is also the guy whose website is phantomsandmonsters.com. So
Okay.
he is the author of that website.
He goes on to say, because the descriptions don't compare exactly, I think there could be at least 2 or 3 different beings. Ha ha ha. Exactly what Karen was saying.
It's almost like you're psychic.
The more than 20 reports since April of the winged humanoid spotted in Chicago are drawing comparisons to the Mothman legend. Journalist and UFO researcher John Keel wrote the 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies.
Which is what the movie was based on that Richard Gere was in.
Thank you. That's the next line.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's almost like I'm psychic.
Which was made into the 2002 movie starring Richard Gere and Laura Linney. The book and the movie were based on events that occurred in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Numerous people reported seeing a red-eyed Mothman creature in the...
Mutations Factory.
Stop it! In the months before the Silver Bridge carrying U.S. Highway 35 over the Ohio River collapsed on December 15, 1967, killing 46 people. Like the town of Roswell, New Mexico, which holds the annual festival commemorating a 1947 UFO incident, Point Pleasant celebrates its local legend each September by hosting a Mothman festival, which we've already talked about.
Well, maybe we should try the Roswell Festival.
Yes.
That could be a fun little trip to New Mexico.
Yes, that would be fun.
I didn't know about that till just now.
Strickler, who chronicles reports of ghosts, UFO sightings, and other paranormal activity on his Phantom and Monsters website, told me the recent alleged accounts of the creature spotted in Chicago represent the largest cluster of possible Mothman sightings in 50 years since the Point Pleasant tragedy. And right there kind of worries me.
Right.
Because that kind of thing is what happened in Point Pleasant before the bridge went down.
Right.
There was a huge number of people who spotted him.
Of course, back then there wasn't Google and internet and people to track it. It was just word of mouth and everyone thought you were crazy.
So guys, you're going to hear it here. You know,
well,
maybe I was like, maybe
let's hope that it's not.
Maybe let's not take any trips to Chicago for a little while. I cannot find any other grouping like this, Strickler said. Strickler has chronicled 21 alleged Mothman sightings in Chicago this year. The earliest was April 7th in Oz Park. Strickler said it was reported to a colleague, Manuel Navarrete, of the UFO Clearinghouse.
I mean, Chicago in and of itself is not unaccustomed to tragedy. Like, that city has had so many fires and serial killers, H.G.G. Holmes.
Right.
Knows that guy, and if you don't, look that up, because that guy was crazy. But they know tragedy in Chicago.
That is very true. Here it says a woman walking her dog claimed she encountered a creature standing in the park. I saw a large man, probably 7 feet or taller, standing on the ground, according to the account published by Strickler. It was solid black, but what really stood out were the large, and I do mean large, pair of wings that were folded behind him. The account said the creature looked at the woman before spreading its wings and flying off. I felt like this thing could see right through me, read me. It knew what I was thinking, like it could stare right into my very soul. It was the most terrified I have ever been in my entire life. Most of the alleged sightings that have occurred at night, near water. A man fishing with his son along Lake Culminance River in Hedgewish Park reported seeing a man-sized black bird around 7:30 p.m. April 30th. Another man walking with his 6-year-old son in Calumet, don't know if I'm saying that.
I think it's Calumet.
Calumet Park around 8 p.m.
I too am not, for sure. Any Chicagoans out there, please feel free to correct.
Yes. Around 8 p.m. May 5th reported a similar encounter. A man said he was with a group near Alder Planetarium on June 23rd when they saw something that looked like a large bat. The most recent alleged sighting occurred Monday during daylight at 5 p.m. at Willis Tower. A witness smoking a cigarette on the sidewalk outside the tavern reported looking up and seeing a human-like figure with large wings perched near the top of the building.
Now, I think the Willis Tower is the old Sears Tower, which is the tallest building in Chicago, which has the big glass outwalk where you can kind of walk out and, the overlook. I believe that would be
very scary. Strickler wrote, as he watched, the being leaped off the building, stretched out the wings, dipped and swooped upwards. It gained altitude as it flapped its wings and headed off in the northern direction. I asked Strickler about the credibility of the reports. If one accepts the reports as authentic, could people be seeing a large owl, a man in a winged suit, that's hard to say, or a drone decorated to look like a monster? We've looked into everything, he said. People say it moves its head and its legs. It acts like it's living. If it were a suit, it would need some kind of jet pack. It would have to get some kind of propulsion to it. It flaps its wings and accelerates. One of the more convincing accounts of this alleged sighting is to have occurred at about 11:15 p.m., June 29th, at 81st and Throop Streets in the Auburn-Gresham neighborhood. Strickler published an account allegedly received by Navarrete from a man claiming to be a Chicago police officer on a routine patrol with his partner. They said, "We were flagged down by a group of people who were pointing up at the top of the apartment building that was on the corner," Strickler wrote, relating the alleged account. The man claiming to be an officer reported seeing a large creature with wings at the top of the building. They shined flashlights on it and it flew away. People crowded around and said that they had seen the creature flying over the neighborhood the previous 2 nights. all of that kind of stuff really gives me chills when things happen repeatedly like that. I mean, you never know. Is there something about to happen in that neighborhood? Is there something that's, he's supposed to be bringing some kind of prophet of doom here.
And more importantly, it's a group of people and a police officer in this scenario.
Right. So
credibility goes up when it's, you want to believe the credibility goes up, I should say, when it's a man in blue or some other person like that.
Just more than one person.
Right.
We initially were doubtful about filing a report because we thought we would be made fun of for seeing a little green man. We finally filed the report as we did not want to violate protocol, Strickler wrote of the alleged sighting. I checked with the Chicago Police Department to see if any reports were filed about the alleged Auburn-Gresham incident or any other recent Mothman sighting. It stated, "Our database did not reveal any reports or any incidents regarding the aforementioned," a spokesperson said. I remain skeptical about the reported sighting of the Mothman in Chicago, but I find the accounts entertaining. They remind me of the Coquette, the Night Stalker, a TV show that aired on ABC in 1974 through 1975. Darren McGavin starred as Carl Kolchak, a newspaper reporter who investigated mysterious cases involving monsters and strange creatures. It was like the X-Files of its day. Strickler believes Mothman is a being from another dimension. He wrote, "I have long theorized that the Mothman and the other unknown winged beings are multidimensional life forms that can be summoned by high energy incorporeal entities that reside on our Earth plane." Very interesting.
So, that whole corporeal entities and energies, if you had a tragedy that was about to happen, that would be high energy because you would have a lot of human beings affected, kind of like that whole residual haunting thing.
Most definitely.
So, tragedy happens, there's a lot of energy in a tragedy, a lot of emotion, and that just kind of gets painted on the walls. So, could that go through to another dimension? It's kind of an interesting preponderance.
Very much so, and especially if we're dealing with some kind of foul play kind of thing, that's a lot of negative energy right there. If someone is about to cause damage to something or a lot of deaths all at once is about to happen, that's a lot of energy being put out into the universe.
So in conclusion, is the Mothman real?
I want to believe, it's weird because I'm usually the skeptic in all of these things, but I really want to believe that the Mothman is real, that maybe he's some kind of guardian angel type thing that comes around and tells us when something bad's about to happen, or like in the movie, the woman saw the Mothman had a bad wreck and then found out she had a brain tumor. It's all different kinds. Sorry, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the movie.
The movie came out a long time ago.
But still, I want to believe in this kind of entity, that there's something out there watching over us and letting us know when something bad's about to happen.
Maybe the Mothman is an angel.
Sure.
The funny thing about angels is we all have this idea of what angels are, but if you ever read descriptions of angels, they're not always the humanoid or the typical angel that you see and
right.
touched by an angel. They can be shapes, sizes, and different
I was going to say, them within
And some
themselves
can be very scary. Like the archangels are typical humanoids, but some of the other levels of the angels, they're not so humanoid. And they can be very different.
We also have to understand that if you believe in one, you have to believe in the other. There is no good without evil.
And angels have always been a harbinger.
I mean, demons were once angels. So, I mean, who's to say this isn't
I don't think a demon would warn you that something bad was happening.
I don't know if this was some kind of, negative force.
Yeah. Maybe he's hoping people won't notice.
Maybe. I don't know.
So that's the Mothman in a nutshell. Tell us what you think about Mothman by going to our dragonsnestpc.com website. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. Also, I want everyone to know that Star Trek is back on television. You have to watch it on CBS All Access app. But let me tell you, this season has been great. I'm loving it. Thank you, CBS, for bringing Star Trek back. All my nerd friends out there, if you aren't watching it, you should be watching it. It's really, really, really good. That's my pitch for Star Trek.
Yes, definitely. You have to give shout outs for Star Trek, especially bringing it back to TV. It's pretty incredible.
That's all the time we have for this episode. As always, we thank you for listening to The Dragon's Nest. Please follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dragon's Nest PC. That's Dragons with an S, Nest PC for podcast. We are on YouTube, so please like, subscribe, and hit that bell. You can listen and follow us on your favorite podcast platforms such as Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google, iTunes, and at our host site, SoundCloud. To search for us, just search The Dragon's Nest. That's the THE, Dragons with an S, Nest. If you would like to share a story with us or have ideas you'd like to hear in a future show, please send an email to thedragonsnest@outlook.com or call and leave us your story at 513-549-3049. Again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time
inside the Dragon's Nest.